Thank you. And in game one, the call was made to pop Divine Shield to secure the objective, the Dragon Knight. Whose decision is that in game, and how do you go about the thought process of burning a long cooldown to secure an objective opposed to using it in a team fight later on?
Hello? So I'm on the Uther, I'm the one giving the divine, right? But it's already talked about like in the game, before the game, while we're rotating around, we're like, yo, we can maybe de-shield the cap, it's probably worth it, because you're gonna just kind of Dragon Knight for like a minute, so you're not gonna need the shield. It was something that was mentioned during our rotations, basically. It's just something that came up, and then it's like, in the moment, we're like, okay, it looks good, and then boom, you just do it, you know? I think it's just like a team effort thing, you have to talk about it, and we did, so that makes it, you know, I think that we can do.
Hi there, Adam with Action Esports. So you guys coming into the tournament were the favorites to take it all, and so far you have not disappointed. So who do you think is going to give you the highest level of competition going forward?
Hello. Coming into this tournament, like actually being one of the favorites is a kind of pressure, because it feels like every time you lose a map, you're kind of pressure. But I think for this tournament, I know I would say maybe Tempo Storm or Fnatic. I'm not sure enough. I thought Team Freedom would be a threat because it looks really strong in stream, but they're already out. So yeah, I think we're still confident against every team. So I don't think we expect that much of, you know, yeah, resistance from our teams.
Thank you.
Throughout the first 6 matches you had in league play, you only dropped a singular map, but in the past 3 matches you've dropped 5 total maps. Has there ever been a level of concern that you guys have maybe been figured out by your opponents, or that you're a little bit more vulnerable than you thought you were prior?
I think it's just natural. When we're at the top, it's very difficult to maintain that top status. I think it's a lot harder for us to consistently innovate and keep, you know, reinventing parts of our play to stay ahead of the competition, compared to another team. You know, they just watch a replay of what we do, they go, oh, they're going to do this rotation, and then they counter it, you know? So I think it's just natural that other teams will work us out a little bit more over time. It's still up to us to be that innovating team, be the team that comes up with the new strategies, and I think we still do that very well. I think we're playing things here that other teams aren't very comfortable playing against, and I think that's part of like why our macro play looks so good, is we're drafting very intelligently still, and other teams still haven't worked us out, as you say. But I mean, I think we're not too pressured if we drop a map here and there. I think, like you say, at the beginning it was very easy for us to just do a bunch of series and not lose anything, and then now it looks like we're dropping maps almost every series. But it's not really concerning for us. Like, sometimes teams have really good execution themselves, sometimes they have their own good ideas, and sometimes we're just playing something and they have a counter and we didn't know about it. But as long as we learn from each game that we play and each map and in each series, on top of that, I think we're still fine to be confident as the team that's ahead of them.
Just have one final question. You guys had a lot of roster turnover from last year to this year, with losing Bakery, Mene, and adding Wubby and Poik. What would you say this roster is better at overall than last year's, and where do you think this roster might not be as strong at?
Hello. Making this roster our main focus, because during the meta it was a lot of individual rotations. So making this roster, our thought process was we want 5 people who can like rotate by themselves, and people who think for themselves, and like very individual players, because that's how the playstyle we're going more towards. I think that's the biggest difference from how Dignitas might have been before. I feel like our weakness now might be that everyone is kind of doing their own thing and it's been working out. But now lately, when it's not working out, we lack a bit of synergy in rotations and even using our spells, because yeah, everyone is kind of doing their own thing. So we just gotta get back on the right track.
I think one of the bigger reasons we were losing to sellouts and dropping maps is because teams have gotten very decisive in what they're going to do around the map. And on a map like Battlefield of Eternity, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but it's been our worst map. And then it's much about efficiency and where you put your resources. So let's say one guy sees a play and it kind of works out but kind of doesn't, then the other team has a plan and they stick to it. Let's say they're more of a team thing, you know, their shot caller calls something, they do it. So we get punished when we take a less good trade, especially on a BOE, for example. So a team that's just following one plan from one guy might sometimes, you know, win when just one guy makes a little mistake or there's a little disconnect. So sometimes we look really good, sometimes not so much.
So since the beginning of the season, we've seen several characters introduced into rotation, the two most recent being used very heavily during this tournament. How do these regular releases of characters and the meta shift that comes along with it, how does that affect you in preparation for tournaments like this with such high stakes?
Well, new heroes just makes it more fun to like get into the new meta. It's like you're exploring a new game almost, because a drastic meta change, it's like a whole new game almost. New drafts, new ways how to play the maps, and new prioritization picks. Oh, that word is hard. But yeah, I don't think it matters that much, because if we just put in the work and we're not afraid of trying the new heroes, and we know when they're good, when they're bad, I don't think it's much of a problem at all, and I think it just makes it more fun and rewarding for the teams that put in the effort and work.
Hello. So yesterday North American teams managed to do something that they couldn't do for a whole year. They finally managed to win the series versus Europe. Last year here in Katowice, some European teams said that North American teams are not so dedicated in their scrims. Do you think that something changed for them, or maybe you have some kind of other opinion? Why did they improve?
I think it's very clear that the changes that North America have made throughout the 2018 HGC have benefited them amazingly. I think their new lineups are actually very, very dedicated. We had very, very serious scrim practice with Team Freedom when they boot camped here in Europe, which again is a big step for a North American team, which is like actually putting resources into boot camping, especially in another entire continent. You know, like it's a big like change in the mindset, you'd say, or maybe of like the NA HGC. I think the new lineups, you know, they look a lot better. They seem a lot more synergized. They just have better players in general. Like all 4 teams attending here, they come off as very good teams. And when we watch them play in, you know, in the games, or when we scrim them behind the stage, like they seem good either way. So I do think that the NAHGC has made a lot of good improvements. Whatever, you know, changes that have happened in their dedication, I can't say for myself because obviously I don't have that sort of information. But between the roster changes that we can see and just playing against them, you can definitely feel that they're putting a lot more effort in. And I think that is why it's being so well rewarded in this tournament.
Okay, and for example, Maiev right now. In Hero League, she's almost insta-banned, but here in the tournament, we can see that sometimes she's getting picked. She has more than 60% win rate at this point. Is it? Do you consider that she's not that OP as in Hero League in competitive, or you just know how to play versus her better than other players in Hero League or anything?
I think Maeve specifically is a lot about her synergies. Like you pick Maeve, Tyrael together, and all of a sudden you have a beefy frontline with pick potential. Tyrael supports really well, and Maeve has like pick potential in herself. So, you know, Stukov, silence in the cage. There's so many things you can do with Maeve. Her numbers might be slightly overtuned, even after the nerfs, but it's mostly just her synergies. So, like, I think we're not too afraid just letting, you know, a casual Maeve go through if we can take away, like, the Earl, for example, or, you know, any of the good synergies. I think it's mostly just, like, the combination Maeve and something else that we're worried about.
All right, guys, we have time for about 1 or 2 more questions. Does anyone else who hasn't asked the question yet have one? Tim, you got our last one.
Just kind of a fun moment in that series was when you guys decided to pick Li Ming, and I saw Wubby got a nice reaction from the Li Ming in the crowd, the girl who's dressed up as her. How does that type of moment really relate to you guys when the crowd is so into what you guys are doing, get so excited over heroes that you guys play?
So we obviously saw her before the game, but when drafting we didn't think about it. So when we picked Li Ming, I think we heard like a scream from the crowd, and it's like, oh right, that's a thing, because you're so focused, like you don't even think about the crowd. And then I think Pork switched the skin even to the same skin as she had, even though it's banned, and then he swapped back, and you could hear some more scream. But yeah, it's really nice. We have a lot of big fans in the crowd. Every time we go to Katowice, I was here with Dignitas 2 years ago. It's the same. The crowd is very supportive. I think there's especially one guy who's a super fan. It's really nice. I think like having the crowd on your side is always a positive thing.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, guys. We do have a few interview requests for you.